Hello, Fallen Dragonite here again with Little Waspinator-chan, and today I am looking at a series of Transformers I have been wanting to review for a while, but I was waiting until I got the full set to get to it. And that is the Transformers Fall for Cybertron Siege Weaponizer series. These were a trio of special Transformers that were released during Siege with a particular gimmick that worked with every other figure in the line. Now, I'll get to the gimmick a little later, but let's look at each individual figure. First off, let's look at Cog, who is some sort of rolling weapons platform. Now then, each one of these weaponizers was packaged originally in the G1 series with one of the Titans. Of course, Cog here was packaged with Fort Max. You can tell by the color scheme. Brunt here, he was packaged with Trypticon in the original, and this was the one I was really looking forward to just so I can finish my Titans Return Trypticon. And as you can see, Six Gun here, just from his colors, you can tell he was bundled with Metroplex because he has the white and the red color scheme. Now Cog, see, he rolls quite decently. He also splits in half. So you're probably already expecting this to be a parts form, but this is actually how the original toy was. He split in, he was two vehicles that could be docked together, and when you docked it together, that's when you got the robot mode. But this is modern engineering. They had to make this a little bit more fancy. So let's actually get him into robot mode, and I am going to just say this right off the bat. They are indeed all parts formers. So first things first, we got to rip off the guns. You can probably already tell these are his forearms, and you can see because of the paint on the other side, we have to swap the sides they're on to make the arms like so. We flip out this section and rotate the head around. And this brings us to the first problem with Cog. Being the first release in the line, because it was part of the first wave, there was a few problems with it. So we're going to rip off the guns, and I'll show you what the problem is. You can see, in fact, you can kind of already tell this part is actually separating, because the friction of moving this piece forward, the hips, like so, will eventually make this pop open pretty darn easily. So most people I know of glued this together, but because of this hip assembly, I am really reluctant because I might actually lock the hip in place. So I find just sandwiching the piece together as you move the hips around is a lot safer in my opinion. Although if I get a lot more bold at it, I might actually just end up gluing it myself. So as you can see, we got Cog's legs. So we'll just pop his torso together. As you can see, it's not the same connectors as before because now his pelvis is rotated all around. So we have a hole here, we got a port here, and we just click it together, and we got Cog in his robot mode. So in robot mode, he looks pretty nice, although he is very hollow in the back. Mostly due to the transformation, partly due to the transformation and partly because of the gimmick he has. Yeah, like these big gaps in his legs. You might think that's just hollowing out the plastic, but it actually has a purpose that I will demonstrate later. See, his head rotates around because of transformation. He does have that panel so you can kind of look up. Because this is on a peg, it can rotate all the way around. There's also the movement, and there's this panel right here that folds out so you can get a lot more movement. There is the bicep swivel, over 90 degrees of bend at the elbow. You probably wouldn't think this because of the transformation, but he actually does have a waist joint. Kudos right there. They actually managed to put a waist joint, having him be two halves. Of course, the hips are universal. They're really tight. This swivels. He has really deep knee bends, and he has breakable ankles. So you can get him in some decent poses. Which brings us to the second problem. His guns. Now then, you think, oh, you're supposed to put the guns in his hands. Well, as you can see, they don't stay in his hands at all. In fact, I find that the friction works better if you just put them in his forearms like this. Which is a nice looking way to do it, but it really sucks that you can't put his guns in his hands. And yeah, his guns, the pegs are not really shaped properly, that they fit in every single port like they're supposed to. I've actually tried using it with some other figures, and it's really hit or miss if it actually stays in the port like it's supposed to. It's really a problem with COG. Now then, there was a Takara repaint remold of this, and it actually had a different style of gun, and the pegs on the guns were actually a little bit better. They were thicker, they fit in better. So yeah, that's COG. I don't have many problems with him, but that gun issue is really kind of brings him down a bit. Next, let's take a look at Six Gun, who is a kind of jet thing with lots of artillery underneath, lots of guns, big old thrusters, and then this giant brick underneath. I think this is accurate to G1. So, without further ado, let's actually transform this guy, which requires, again, ripping him in half. And no, he's not supposed to be two separate pieces that operate separately, because this isn't really a vehicle. So, you unpeg this. You can see there's a tab and a slot there. We rotate this around. We fold this all the way back for now. We'll take his feet and fold them out like so. Next, we take this. Now there's a peg. You can see there was a hole here that it originally pegged into, and now we're plugging it into this hole like so. Gonna rip off the wings. You see there is a port and a tab there that we just peg it into like so. We fold these sections down. We take this section here, we fold it all the way down like so. Fold these two sections up. This side's a little looser on mine. Next we take these, pull these off and put them right here. And as you can see, we have a port and goes just right in there. We'll just bend his elbow. We fold this section down, rotate his head, and let's put on his other arm. And there we have Six Gun in his robot mode. Really nice looking, kind of chunky, but it definitely invokes something that would have turned it into a jet anyway. His cannons can move, like so. Make them pointing forward a little bit. Head rotates again because of transformation. Again, because this is just on a peg, it just rotates around. Also has a bit of an outward movement, although you have to move this out of the way to get full movement there. There is bicep, only about 90-degree bend at the elbow. Kind of want to, of course, transformation joint giving him a waist. He has universal hips, knee bend, and thigh swivel. And I do like the design of him, and his parts do fit a little bit better than they did on COG. Although he does have a little trouble standing on this table right now. I think it's because the table's a little curved. Now we look at Brunt, the only Decepticon of the trio. And he is a tank. Little pulls quite nicely, and the turret moves around, moves up and down. Looks like an anti-aircraft kind of vehicle, in my opinion. Not like a tank, really. Anyway, there is this peg right here. You're supposed to fold it all the way in like so. I'm not folding it all the way. You can see there's a groove there that's supposed to fit in, but it is very hard to get this thing back out if you fold it in like it's supposed to. So I usually leave it like this in robot mode, so that way I can actually move it like I'm supposed to. Anyway, for Brunt here, we gotta rip off his front treads. Rip off this whole section right here. No, gotta rip that off anyway. Rip off this. And this section we just fold down like so. Fold the peg in. Rotate this around. We fold out these little bits here. Flip up the head. Don't have to rotate it around or anything. It's already in its proper position. We take this panel right here and we just plug it in to his back like so. So we're just gonna take the cannon here, split it in half, fold the connector pins back in, pull out that, pull off this. We're gonna put these together. And next, gotta make sure that they're lined up properly as we put them on his legs to make his feet. So now he can finally stand. We take this little tiny cannon and we rotate this a little bit so we have enough room to fit it on his shoulder like so. And then finally, we pull this apart, fold up little pincer claw, fold this down, and pour the peg goes into the hole like so to form the arms. Come on. And there we have Brunt in his robot mode. Now then, articulation wise, swivel there. Of course, the peg means that it just rotates all the way around. Fold outward. Rotation. Pincers can open. Has waist articulation. Universal hips. Only 90-degree bend. Any further and you pop off the leg. And of course, break his feet for an ankle tilt. Robot mode really looks beefy and militaristic. Proper Decepticon looking design in my opinion. So then, now that we've looked at each one individually, what's their gimmick? I'm sure probably some of you've already probably guessed, but the gimmick is they're called weaponizers, meaning that you can rip them completely apart. So, what do you do with those parts then? Well, I'm going to bring out Refractor here. And there are a few different configurations here. You can see with Cog's torso, we can just rotate his head around. And you can just use him like a shoulder piece. Which looks completely ridiculous on a deluxe class, but it probably works better on a Voyager or Leader class. Or you can put it on the forearm like so for a twin-barreled blaster. However, there's also another configuration you can do with this. You fold these in. You don't fold in the head. And you pop out this for a shield. Now then, these bits right here, we can put them back on the pelvis like so. Now then, fold these up like this. Fold out this peg. And then we take these bits, and we plug them into the holes on the bottom. And we got a big old backpack of guns that we can just plug into refractor's back like so. Okay, you're probably wondering why I'm using a refractor. It's because he doesn't have a lot of kibble on him, so it's a lot easier to do all these different configurations on him. So, but there's another configuration we can do is that we take these bits off and we fold the legs completely together. You see, that's why there's the gap there, so you can fold them completely in. Then we take the peg, just plug it in the bottom of the foot, like so, to give him a bit of extra height. And we take this piece, and it's going to have the same roll, except now we're going to take the holes in the middle of the forearm and use those as the back-mounted cannons, and then we just take his guns, put them on where they were in robot mode, and there we have another back-mounted gun. There are some other configurations you can try, but those are some of the ones they show in the instructions. But ultimately, you can just mix and match pieces all you want and just make up whatever weird combinations you like. Especially depending on the figure you're using and trying to work around their kibble. Next, let's take a look at what we can do with 6 guns. So we're just going to rip them apart like before. And as you can see, his legs, if you fold down this peg, giant blaster. So you can use those as just big old guns that your figure can hold. But there is another configuration. It doesn't really work on refractor because the peg on his back doesn't work too well for this, but we just take this here. We take these bits and plug them in like so. And then we take these out this bit right here, and we fold out this peg. This peg just doesn't like me for some reason. We fold out that peg. We fold these bits just back to just get them out of the way. And we fold this bit up. As you can see, there's a hole there. And we have a little backpack, which, as I said, doesn't really fit too well on refractor. However, again, you can use these as foot extensions, like so. Yes, they show this in the instructions. You can do this as foot extensions to make him a little higher. And this is actually the more interesting configuration I saw in the instructions, is that you fold this, and there's actually a little joint here. And the way it's positioned, it can't really work like an ab crunch on a 6-gun, but you fold these like so. And, oh, I folded in the bit because that needs to be out. We fold this completely together, and we mount that on there. And all we do is just put it on his arm like so, and he has a giant hand. It's one of the neater configurations I've seen. And of course, we can just leave it like this for the... This is another one they show on the instructions where it just folds out like so, like a missile launcher mounted on his arm. Just put that there, and Yeah, there's also another configuration I personally do, which is just more me, where I just fold it up like this. Take these bits right here, just mount them up on top to make another weapon backpack. And yeah, you're probably wondering, but yeah, these guns can also be taken out as well. So I just rotate them around. This actually works for me. So another weapon backpack. So that's some of the modes you can do with 6-gun. And now let's look at Brunt. So we're just going to rip him apart completely. And that. Rip those off. Now then, the first thing, I haven't used this mode a whole lot, so I'm a little off on it, but you pop. Oh wait, let's pop them in place like so, and then you rotate these like so. I think this is how it's supposed to go. I haven't really used this mode, but you got manipulator arm backpack, which just plugs into his back like so. However, it doesn't use all the parts, so we're gonna rip these off, fold up the claws, collapse them like this, and we're going to put them on his feet. Oh wait, I gotta make sure this is pointing back so that there's enough room for his feet to fit. Because again, we got another pair of giant boots. So this chunk, you see we got the peg there. We take the cannon bits and now we got a big old arm mounted gun that just, oh hang on. Yeah, this peg tends to fold up when you're trying to fit it into the hole, so I'm just going to do this off camera for a sec because it's a little tricky to get it, there we go, it's a little tricky to get it in there. This piece right here, we're just going to put it on like a shoulder or something as an extra armor. Then we're going to take his backpack unit. This time I'm going to rotate it this way. Fold up one of the pegs. Plug it into his back. Again, like so. And I'm going to swap this because I think it works better on this side for this particular configuration. So what we're going to do now is we're going to recombine this. Hold out the peg from vehicle mode, make sure that it's connected properly, and then mount it on like so for a giant shoulder-mounted cannon. So yeah, he has even more guns. Which I'd say this is actually more my favorite configuration than the giant grabby claws coming off his back. So yeah, that is all we need to say on the weaponizers. Now then, there is a fan mode that someone made that actually combines them all into a giant gestalt being, but I really am not going to do that on camera for 2 reasons. One, it's very involved, requires making sure that all the pieces are put in their proper place, and 2, it is extremely top heavy. It requires positioning pieces in order to make sure that that most of the weight is being put forward instead of all on the top. Doesn't really work too well with the Siege releases, but the Takara repaints of all three of these, they actually work better because they fix the issues, and the COG actually has a longer guns because they need to use those as heel spurs. Well, anyway, that is my review of the Transformer Weaponizers. And we'll just have Brunt just leave his Autobot counterparts in the dust here. Anyway, that's my review of the Weaponizers. However, this did remind me of another toy that came out a few years back, and I hope to do another video real soon talking about that one. So until then, bye.